So what's up, people, and welcome to another Battle Angel Alita Mars Chronicle discussion. Yeah, so recently we've been discussing a lot of things about Mars Chronicle, probably because I have so many questions about that part of the story, considering that it's not over yet. And we talked about a lot of things, from Erica to the Necro Soldiers to the Immortal Nostrum to Baron Muster and even Alita's past. But amongst that, there is one other topic that gets covered, although it gets kind of shadowed by a lot of the other things that's going on. But it's probably related to some of the topics that are being discussed in a larger subject, basically the Alita's battle against Desane, or her upcoming battle against Desane. But in any case, I was curious about the things that are going on. So I wanted to talk about it here. And of course, that topic is basically Limeira, Queen Limeira. So what the heck is going on with Queen Limeira? There's been a lot of questions that's popping up with regards to things that are going on around her. And overall, Queen Limeira is a very mysterious sort of person. She is the daughter of King Ramzan, who was the former leader of the Mars Kingdom Parliament, and as such she is right now the reigning queen of the Parliament. And as you know, the Parliament is one of the three major powers in Mars, that's battling for supremacy. And so throughout this story, she comes out a lot, especially because of the fact that in general she is portrayed as a benevolent character. And as such, she comes to the rescue a lot of times of a lot of people, including Alita, right? During the time when Alita was first defeated by Umbadi, she was the one who kind of inadvertently came to her aid after her Alita's confrontation with Z out in space. And so Limeira turns out to be a very interesting character in that she doesn't directly come out to do anything, but indirectly she becomes very important to people like Alita, as well as the Stellar Nursery Society, for example, in that she is the one that gives them safe haven and a country for them to live in. And so she is an interesting character, but there has been a lot of mysteries that have been going on, especially in the Mars Chronicle situation, but some of it spans all the way back to Last Order. And so before I do begin, I do want to give my spoiler alert. So I'll start out with this topic that falls into Last Order, and so if you haven't read Last Order yet, then you may want to turn off the early parts of this video. Later on, I will be then switching to Mars Chronicle, and I will give a warning before I do so for anybody who's only read Last Order and has not read Mars Chronicle and does not want to hear about it. And so that is my warning or my spoiler alert for this episode. And as always, please watch at your discretion. Okay, so Queen Limeira. Yes, she is a very interesting character. Not only does she have a history of being one of the few unique benevolent monarchies in Mars, which is a big mess and usually is full of extremely questionable people. But she also has a few peculiarities. First of all, she seems to be extremely wise, but at the same time somewhat immature. She has this portrayal of being a very innocent, almost vulnerable sort of being. She acts almost like a child a lot of times. And yet other times she is extremely wise and can conduct a conversation and even a negotiation with decent fluidity. And so you start wondering, exactly what sort of person is she? Is she one of those people that you look up to because she is a strong individual? Or is she a soft individual that you have to worry about? Is she a damsel in distress, or is she the knight in shining armor? You're not exactly sure with Queen Limeira. But whatever the case, at least in Last Order, and since we are starting with Last Order, she did feel like she was a benevolent character. However, there is that one peculiarity, at least for me, that was like, this is a little bit creepy, creeping me out. And that is, of course, her stuffed teddy bear. Yeah, so that teddy bear named Koenig is always at her side. Again, this might be the reflection of the younger side of her persona, in that she's always running around carrying that teddy bear. But it does go beyond even a little child carrying their, stuffed animal, their favorite stuffed animal, in that the teddy bear becomes somewhat part of the conversation. It starts talking, and it often greets people and becomes the beginning of the conversation, at which point later on, Limeira steps in. And of course, there has been some thought with regards to, well, since the teddy bear is, or Koenig is an animate character in this manga, does it have a life of its own? Now, from the discussions, it seems like Limeira indicates that she is actually, having fun playing a ventriloquist. And this is basically just an act. But, even the greatest ventriloquist that we know of in this age doesn't typically spend all that time with the doll when they're off camera, right? I mean, at least I don't think so. There has been a few kind of horror stories about ventriloquists where they were kind of hooked and felt that their doll was a separate character. It became the alter ego of the character, but I'm not sure if that's the case in this one. Limeira at least seems to be of sound mind, and she doesn't seem to change, and there doesn't seem to be any drama or mysteries that surround her, despite the fact that are these two characters. The Venusians and even some of the people on Earth, and the Jovians definitely thought that maybe Limeira's late father, King Ramsen, had his spirit or memory or whatever downloaded into a memory chip or a brain chip and installed into the teddy bear or Koenig. But I don't know, there doesn't seem to be any indication that that is the case. And if that's not the case, what is Koenig, right? Is Koenig just basically a toy that Limeira feels close to and it's her security blanket? In which case, my gosh, I mean, it is a very important security blanket for her, considering that she even travels into deep space, with Koenig wearing his own separate suit. So she definitely, I've never seen Limeira without Koenig, except that one time when Giraud stole that teddy bear, right? But yeah, what is Koenig? Is Koenig supposed to be a container of a certain part of Limeira's psyche, just like in some of those horror movies in the past? And in this case, is it not a horror movie in the sense that there's no evil entity in Koenig, but is it another extension of Limeira that she kind of switches back and forth? Or is it, again, a separate character? Maybe if it isn't King Ramsen, is it somebody else? And if it isn't King Ramsen, who exactly is in Koenig? So that is always a very interesting point. And because of the fact that Koenig seems to have a life as its own, it tends to be a little bit creepy. Exactly what is this character? And if it's pretending to be a stuffed animal that's inanimate, and only near Limeira does it become animate, then is there a hidden objective to the character? And will we ever find out about it? The reason I ask that question is because of the fact that it seems Yukito Kishiro has gone out of his way to have this teddy bear always by Limeira's side. This isn't just a matter of the character likes this teddy bear and it's a security blanket. Even, Linus in Charlie Brown sometimes is without his security blanket, right? So is this just a security blanket or is there something more? And even if it is a security blanket, in most cases, they don't usually become animate. And if it does become animate, then it's usually pretty obvious that it is an extension of the character, right, who's doing the ventriloquist act. But in this case, there's always this indication that maybe it's somewhat an autonomous entity. And if that is the case, it does, again, become a very peculiar thought. And why did Yukito Kishiro bother to make Koenig talk, make Koenig have an opinion? And is there something that will be coming up later that we learn about something very peculiar to Limeira that we don't know about yet that involves Koenig? So anyway, once again, this is a discussion video. This is not a narration video, so I have no idea why Koenig is that way. But I feel that I am not the only one that has questioned the existence of this bear. And so if you have any thoughts about why Koenig is that way, then I would like to hear about it, and thank you very much in advance. Okay, so that is basically all I wanted to talk about in the not in the Mars Chronicle, in the Last Order side. So let's now jump into the Mars Chronicle side. And as such, I will give my spoiler warning again. If you don't want to hear about the things that are in Mars Chronicle because you have not read Mars Chronicle yet, then this may be a point where you may want to turn off this video. But for everybody else who wants to keep on going, okay, let's move forward. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on in Mars Chronicle. A lot of it is a mystery and a lot of it revolves around that confrontation that Alita is having, mostly with her old teammates in the Panzerkunst Academy, which are now in the Einherjar and are Necro soldiers, and also this mysterious character named Desane, which seems to be the kingpin behind a lot of the mysteries that are going on. And one of the things that, of course, comes up in Mars Chronicle is the murder of Queen Limeira, or the attempted murder of Queen Limeira. And that by itself is, of course, tremendous news that somebody of that caliber of importance in that planet has almost died. But the other is, of course, the person who is thought to have assassinated or tried to assassinate Queen Limeira is Alita. And of course, we see in Mars Chronicle the scenes where Alita comes in and tries to kill Limeira and then escapes when Zizi tries to confront her. And this, of course, later on becomes the issue when Alita, as we see her, comes back to Mars and is greeted by a very, very angry Zizi, who is fuming because of the fact that Alita tried to kill Her Majesty. And so, this, of course, brings up the question. Why would anybody try to kill Limeira? And who tried to kill Limeira? And why did they pretend that it was Alita who was trying to kill Limeira? Now, the easiest answer is, of course, with regards to Alita, is because since Alita is a close friend of Queen Limeira, by coming in as Alita, that will lower Limeira's defenses and as even Zizi's defenses, and that will give the character the ability to move forward and assassinate Limeira successfully. And what was interesting is during the attack on Limeira, the perpetrator did use plasma jets coming out of her fingers to kill her, or try to kill her. And there are only a few people, I would think. Actually, I don't know of anybody besides Alita who can control plasma that well. But in any case, if there is, then I would think that there's two possibilities. The only technology we've seen where you have a very strong, cybernetic entity who can control plasma from a physical perspective because their body has been designed to do so, is anybody who is using either the Berserker body or the Imaginos body. So, if it's the Imaginos body, of course, it's somebody associated with Nova, because Nova is the only one who can make the Imaginos body. But I am not sure if that would be the case. But the other possibility is that it's a Berserker body. And if it is a Berserker body, then it can actually be anybody. And in fact, it may be somebody who has, the ability to get their hands on that ancient technology. So, is that associated with somebody in the past? And of course, as you know, the Berserker body consists of the Berserker cells, and the Berserker cells consist of, inventions, that technology that was invented in Venus. So the Berserker body in general is a Venusian weapon. In which case, why would the Venusians be trying to kill Limeira? And if the Venusians are trying to kill Limeira, is it associated with Alita's time in Venus for like 3 years between Last Order and Mars Chronicle? But if it isn't, then is it somebody who got their hands independently on the Berserker body? And considering the fact that a lot of the Venusian War, the terraforming war, occurred in Mars, was it somebody from, who got their access on Mars from that era? And so if it is from that era, who do we know of from that era? The only one I know of is Baron Muster or the Kingdom of Sidonia. And maybe some of these other characters that are now starting to pop up. And that is not really even back in the terraforming. Is it back? Yeah, it is back in the terraforming wars because it was during the time of young Yoko and Erika. So yeah, it might be that somebody associated with that. But the other possibility is that it is Desane. And Desane would make sense because Desane is the antagonist of this entire third part of the story. And of course that may fit in with the motive of why kill or try to kill Queen Limeira. And that comes to the point of course, one of the other major powers that's trying to gain supreme power in Mars is the Neo Third Reich. I forgot what they're called. The Neo Third Reich Division or something like that. And of course, if that's the case, then the Mars Kingdom Parliament will become their biggest enemy. And of course, Queen Limeira will become the biggest threat. And since Queen Limeira is wise enough and tactically strong enough to be able to gain the power, then that would be very interesting to see. And considering the fact that Desane is using necrosoldiers, and necrosoldiers seem to be a product or a technology of the Neo Third Reich Division, then all of this may tie into Desane being involved with it. I wouldn't be surprised because of the fact that, Desane's been involved with a lot of things, even going all the way back to Last Order. Because it's almost as if Desane was orchestrating Kyrula Sanguis to go to the Zot Championship and get involved with that, and then have that entire thing happen such that Kyrula Sanguis killed Agambadi. And the reason, again, for that being the case is that we find out later in Mars Chronicle that as much as we hated Agambadi in Last Order, he seemed to be the only one who seemed to be able to stand up to Dessain and push back on that person's influence. It may be because his technologies and various things, his multi-chip technology and his Methuselization technology was able to fight, Dessain and their Necro Soldier technology. I don't know, but it is stated that by Kyrula Sanguis herself that, Agambadi was the biggest threat to Dessain. And so it's almost as if that entire Last Order story was orchestrated by Dessain so that Alita could, or not Alita, but Kyrula could take out the one biggest threat that Dessain had. So now, coming back to this, if that's how big an influence this character has in all of space, that this person is working through the shadows, but is influencing even the top tier issues that are going on, then you could imagine that this Dessain would also be somewhat directly or indirectly involved with whatever this assassination attempt is. And so if that is the case, then there may be something beyond let's just assassinate Limeira. For all we know, they didn't want to assassinate Limeira. They wanted to just barely get her to be alive after that assassination attempt, but that she isn't really killed. In which case, then, was the whole purpose to kill Limeira, or to just at least depower her for a while and blame all of that to Alita, so that the entire teamwork between Zazie, Limeira, and Alita starts breaking down? Because right now, Alita is being treated like a fugitive by the Mars Kingdom Parliament. And if it wasn't for Mui stepping in to have Alita released, she may still be in jail in that kingdom. And so, there's a lot of things going on. Why did whoever it was try to kill Limeira? But the other one is who? It probably isn't Alita, although there is that very small possibility it might be, considering the fact that Alita spent 3 years on Venus, and we still don't know why she spent 3 years on Venus, and maybe something along that line came to an objective that she would kill Limeira. But the way that was done, where she came in, started grinning and attacking and trying to kill Limeira, is completely out of character of the current Alita, who likes Queen Limeira. As much as it is a mission, there is some point even for Alita where she might draw a line and say, I won't kill in cold blood, but I may actually kill in warm blood, warning Limeira that she will try to go after her and then pull out the blade. This one is almost a cold, merciless killing. And everything that you know about Alita, you know that she is not merciless. If this was a random foe, yes, then Alita can become an extremely cold person. We know that from, of course, Yoko's massacre of those soldiers prior to Operation Malwolf. And we also know the same Alita, the tuned Alita, how she basically destroyed and, completely decimated the Barjack group that was attacking that train, right? In the original series. And so Alita can go completely destructoid sort of being, but not to Limeira, I don't think. In the same way that Alita could not point her blade at the Stellar Nursery Society during the Zot Championship for the longest time, I think she would have some very ethical issues with regards to killing Limeira in cold blood, especially after all that Limeira has done for Alita, including supporting Alita to, take down Ladder and win the Zot Championship. So yeah, who killed Limeira? There are certain possibilities, one of them being the Einherjar. And if it is the Einherjar, then yeah, out of all the characters that came out, the biggest probability would be Erica, dressed up as Alita. And knowing Erica's character, you could see that would be easily done. Killing in cold blood would be easily done by Erica. But it may not be Erica. It might be somebody that we still haven't seen yet. It's hard to tell. The last, though, is okay. It comes back to that original Last Order question. What's going on with Koenig? Was the assassination there to help Koenig? I mean, there's still that question. Is Koenig a separate entity? In which case, what happened during this entire assassination? You know that Koenig is stitched back as Frankenstein-looking teddy bear. But considering the fact that he is a stuffed animal, and really, if he is a separate entity, he only has a consciousness based upon maybe a chip or something inside him, then, having a stuffed animal body being stitched back is nothing to Koenig. He's just, so long as his chip is safe, then maybe that would be the case. But yeah, again, what the heck is going on with Koenig? And the other thing that comes up is the question that Kyrula Sanguis came up. Was the assassination attempt done to open up an opportunity to turn Limeira into a necro soldier? In which case, although the Mars Kingdom Parliament, Zizi, and everybody thinks that they were able to revive Limeira, did she actually die? And was she turned into a necro soldier? Because, as Kyrula said, unless she bites the person on the neck and shares the blood with them, she would not be able to detect the minor differences between a real human being and a necro soldier. And so why would they want to bring it into a necro soldier? That's pretty obvious. If they could, if the Sane could get control of Limeira and have her work in ways that would be in their favor, then that will make absolute sense to try to make her into a necro soldier. It may also work well with the story in the sense that since Alita is trying to find a cure for the necro soldiers in general because she wants to save Erica and the Einherjar, then maybe that will just coincidentally be convenient that if Limeira turned out to be a necro soldier, then Alita might be able to save her as well. And then all is happy, the Einherjar are back, Erica is alive again, and probably Mars Kingdom Parliament will be grateful for all that because their queen is back alive again. So, interesting questions that are popping up with regards to the mysteries. Now, one final mystery. King Ramesses seems to be a very powerful king, at least the lineage of that family, because the Mars Kingdom Parliament, even within the Big Three, is probably the most powerful government in Mars. And so, considering that that's the case, then it probably didn't come from nothing, right? That lineage of that royalty went back in history, possibly many hundred years to the time when original Yoko and Erica was, scampering about, looking for the immortal nostrum, and potentially earlier than that. In which case, is the King Ramesses and Queen Limeira's lineage associated with one of the 9 kingdoms that's in the story of the Nine Kings and the Jinn, right? And if that's the case, and considering how benevolent that entire family seems to be, was their lineage, their ancestor, the wise king that actually hid the immortal nostrum. In which case, again, if the same is associated with one of the other kingdoms that wanted to get their hands on that immortal nostrum, but because that king hid it so well, then there may be another motive for them to go after that. However, as we know, the immortal nostrum was already discovered by Baron Muster, in which case it's not even objective anymore. But again, regardless of objective or not, is Limeira, this lineage, associated with one of the nine kingdoms of that originally colonized Mars? And is that why this family is so powerful in the current era of Mars? I don't know. I mean, this is, even among speculation, this is a very, pull it out of the air sort of speculation. So please don't take any of this as gospel. But it was curious. And, considering that she is also a benevolent queen, will she be the shepherd girl that eventually saves the immortal nostrum? And doesn't need to be saved, because right now, after Baron Muster got a hold of it, of course it disappeared again. We don't know what Baron Muster did with it. In which case, is it in the hands of the Sane right now? And what was, again, coming up, the immortal nostrum? Is it associated with the Necro Soldiers? A lot of mystery. And I think this murder mystery that is associated with that is tied in somehow to the bigger picture of the immortal nostrum, as well as the battle with the Sane. I don't know, that's just my thoughts. But Yukito Kishiro never does things in random without purpose. And whether it's the existence of Koning as a kind of an animate individual, to, this attempted murder of Queen Limeira, to the legend of the Nine Kingdoms and the Jinn and the immortal nostrum, all of this is done for a reason. I don't know what that reason is yet, but I'm hoping that through some of the clues that we already see in the story, we could get some idea and speculate what that may be. Anyway, that's about it for this video. Sorry again for blabbing on for so long. This is one of those videos that opens up more questions than it does explain answers. And so if you have your opinions on what you think happened during that murder situation and how it ties into this entire big picture between that legend of the Nine Kingdoms, as well as the immortal nostrum, as well as the Sane, as well as the bigger picture that we, that thank you, by the way, for the podcast, Max Tax Jirai, if you're Tax Jirai, if you're listening, as well as everybody in the Alita Army podcast, for letting me talk about some things. But there is also that situation with regards to Merlin, Zeus, and potentially an AI in Venus. Is there an AI in Mars? And there is that one last thing, the Oracle. How does the Oracle tie in? Because the Oracle is supposed to be associated with some ancient technology and ancient lineage in Mars, which for all we know can be the one alien entity that didn't come from the colonization but are true aliens. Or maybe it's from a much previous colonization. It's hard to tell. But it all seems like it's all tied together. And I don't know how it is yet. So if you have any thoughts about that, then I would love to hear about it. Anyway, thank you in advance for any comments. And depending upon what sort of comments I may get, I may make a second part to that so that we could continue discussing that. Because this is really the crux of the story of Mars Chronicle, in my opinion. So being able to understand this better would help me at least a lot. Anyway, that's about it. So I'll continue to make more Battle Angel Alita Battle Angel Gunmu videos in the future. I hope you join me at that time. Until the next episode, happy manga reading, happy anime watching, happy movie watching, and as always, Jaya, nice day, everyone.